Tonight's Where Are They Now is on Richie Furay, then a lead vocalist for one of the most creative American bands of the late 1960s, Buffalo Springfield. But now, a minister living in a log cabin high above Boulder, Colorado.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear.
In 1964, I went to New York to become a folk singer. And during that time, in this little club down on West 4th Street, there was a guy named Stephen Stills and Peter Tork. They had a little band together. And Stephen and I became good friends, and after that group broke up, he went to Los Angeles, and I remained back in New York and actually worked at Pratt & Whitney Aircraft for quite a while. But got bored up there, as obviously you can, handing out tools in a tool crib, and I wrote some letters around, tried to find Stephen again, and he was in California, and a letter came back and said, come on out. I got a group together, and it'd be really, neat. I just need one more singer. Why don't you come on out? And so I got my ticket together and went out to California, and we were the group.
Listen to my bluebird loud.
We started playing some songs, and I shared a few songs with him that I had learned from Neil Young when he had passed through New York and stayed in my apartment. And one day we were driving down Sunset Boulevard, and we pulled up behind this hearse with Ontario license plates, and we said, we got to get up around that, because that's got to be Neil. Somebody, I don't know who it was, had gone down Fountain Avenue, and there was a Buffalo Springfield steamroller. That's where we got the name from, a steamroller company. And somebody had taken the sign off of this steamroller, and we put it up in our house, and we looked at it for quite a while and said, hey, that would be a good name for a group.
What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and a carrying sign. Mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
As I look back on it and think about it now, pretty amazing that 20 years later you can still hear Buffalo Springfield music on the air, and yet we were only together for 2 years with only one major national hit. Today, what I'm doing, if somebody would have asked me or told me that I would be pastoring a church in Boulder, Colorado in 1983, I would have looked at him and I would have said, you gotta be kidding, you gotta be crazy.
Well, as a member of the Rocky Mountain Christian Fellowship, I think most of the people here relate to Richie as our pastor. It's hard to imagine Richie as a rock and roll musician, and he's a truly dedicated pastor to this church here, and it's really exciting.
My life today is much more relaxed. I had to get out of rock and roll music for the simple fact that I was driving myself crazy. God has given me a family, and what would it be worth having a wife, having my 4 daughters, and not being able to spend any time with them, not being able to enjoy the things that life has brought my way.
Right back with Wham UK.